Most people never achieve their dream physiques because they simply do not train hard enough. So in this video, I'm going to define and demonstrate what hard training really is, and I'm going to give you some tips that you can immediately apply in your workout program to help you train harder and stimulate more muscle growth. So training hard and training intensity are these arbitrary terms that everyone throws around in the fitness industry, but very few people take the time to actually define what that means and how to actually do it. And so what is training hard? Right, let's start with that. Training hard means pushing your sets in the gym close to failure. Training to failure means pushing a set to where you can no longer move the weight against gravity despite exerting maximal effort. And so when most people struggle to gain muscle mass, or when most people hit plateaus in the gym, they automatically assume that it's an issue of not doing enough volume, right? So when most people can't gain muscle, they think, oh, I'm not doing enough. Better throw in more sets, more exercises, better throw in more training days. The issue is almost always a lack of intensity. It's a lack of effort. Most people do not train hard enough in the gym. All you have to do, if you don't believe me, is go in your gym, look around at people training. Most people are leaving 3 to 5 reps in reserve on every single set that they do. And that's why people don't gain muscle. It's not about, there's no shortage of people spending hours in the gym every week, right? But there is a shortage of impressive physiques among people who are not taking drugs. And that's because of a lack of intensity. It's a lack of effort. So the first reason, pretty much the only reason why most people just can't train hard enough is because they do too much volume. So there's a quote by the father of high intensity training, Arthur Jones. He says, you can either train long or you can train hard, but you can't do both. And so most people choose to train long instead of training hard because they're under this pretty much brainwashing by the fitness industry, by bodybuilding culture, that more is better. You gotta train more to gain more sets, more time in the gym. That's not how it fucking works. Training hard is what stimulates muscle growth. The duration and the quantity of your training is irrelevant. And so that's why most people do not train hard enough, because they can't train hard, because there is a trade-off between volume, the amount of work you do in the gym, and intensity, how hard you train. If you're going to train a lot, you can't train as hard. If you're going to train hard, you cannot train as much. This is why with Polarity Fitness, we take a low volume approach to training, because when you train less, you can train much harder. And since training hard is what counts, it makes sense to do, right? It makes sense. If training hard is the goal, then we must structure our training in a way that allows us to train hard. And so the reason why most people just cannot train hard is because their routines don't allow them to. Because here's the issue, guys. The more volume you do, the more you have to decrease your training intensity, because doing a lot of volume means spreading yourself thin. It means like think about this, guys. If you're going into a set of bench pressing, right? Or if you're going into bench pressing your workout routine and you have 5 sets to get through, subconsciously, you're going to hold yourself back. You're not going to push those sets with the amount of effort that you're capable of putting in, right? Because deep down, oh fuck, I got 5 sets to get through. I gotta hold myself back in order to complete all of these sets. Compare that to going into bench press knowing that you have to do 2 sets. It's a completely different mindset. You're going to push those sets hard as fuck, and you're gonna make them count. And that's more important than doing more volume. So really, it's because of bodybuilding culture. It's really because of this more is better mentality that people don't achieve their dream physiques and don't train hard enough. Because they think that it's about doing more, when really they have to do less in order to train harder and thus stimulate muscle growth. And so that's a massive paradigm shift for most people. The more volume you do, the more you have to decrease the effort and focus you put into your training. Because once again, guys, if you're gonna do a lot of volume, you have to decrease your effort. If you're gonna train hard, you have to decrease the volume. It's the only way to make it work. And there's gonna be some people watching this video who think that they are the exception to this rule and say that, oh, I can train long, I can do a lot of volume, I can be in the gym 6 days a week, and I can also train really hard. You're full of shit, all right? That's not how it works. Anyone who says that is not training hard. They think they're training hard, but in reality, they do not know what hard training is. And as a side note, the only reason why some people can get away with training a lot is because they don't train hard. And so the first solution, guys, to increasing your training intensity is to reduce your training volume. If you do fewer sets, fewer exercises, you're going to be able to naturally train much harder in that reduced amount of training. That is how it works because of the trade-off between volume and intensity. Most people choose instead to do more volume and reduce their training intensity, but that is not effective for building muscle because training hard is what builds muscle. Spending hours in the gym doesn't build muscle. If you don't believe me, look around your fucking gym. Look at all the people in there 4 to 6 days a week who have nothing to show for it, right? That's because training long doesn't mean jack shit. The next step is to reduce your training frequency, right? And this is why we only train twice per week with Polarity Fitness. When you reduce your training frequency, you have more recovery between workouts. And when you actually step into every single workout fully fresh and fully recovered, you can train much harder, right? If you're training Monday and then you're training again on Tuesday, you're not gonna be able to train at your true capacity on Tuesday, right? Because you just trained the day before. You haven't given your body time to recover. Your central nervous system takes at least 48 hours to recover from a hard training session. And so if you're in the gym on Tuesday after a session on Monday, you are not gonna be able to push that training very hard. It's pretty much junk, right? So that's why we train twice per week. That's why training twice per week is so effective, is because you have like 72 hours of recovery between workouts, like 3 full days. And that allows you to step into every single workout fresh because you're fully recovered from the last workout because you're giving yourself 3 days of recovery. It's a completely different way of approaching your training. You go into your workouts fresh, and that allows you to train really, really hard. So you probably clicked on this video thinking I was gonna give you some crazy mindset hack or like, oh, like, you know, like you gotta adopt this mindset in order to train hard. Like there's nothing fancy here, guys. It's literally about doing less. The key to training hard is fucking doing less. The reason why most people don't train hard is because they fucking train too much. And they don't understand that there's a trade-off between how much training you do and how hard you train. That's literally what it comes down to, guys. Of course, there's going to be, a subset of the population who will still, reduce their training volume and train less frequently, who will still not train hard enough. And that's just because they lack desire and they don't really know what hard training is, which is fine. Like that's something that takes time to learn. Like you're not going to know how to train really hard when you begin your fitness journey. Like that's something that takes time to learn. You need to learn, like, where are my limits? Like, how do I push these limits? How do I, like it takes time to really discover, like, oh, that's where failure is, or, you know what I mean? Like that's stuff that you're not going to get right off the bat, but you have to have the mindset of, okay, I'm going to work on getting my training intensity up, training harder. That's key, okay? So just to recap, guys, it's about doing less in the individual workouts, right? Which speaks to low volume workouts. It's about reducing the amount of exercises you're doing, reducing the amount of sets, but putting more intensity. Like naturally, you'll be able to put more intensity into that reduced amount of training because now you're not doing so much volume and you're spreading your focus and your effort thin. And then it's about reducing your training frequency, training less often so that you actually recover between workouts and are able to step into your workouts with the ability to train hard. That's what it is, guys. So now I'm going to show you guys, I guess, a set or two of weighted pull-ups and getting into my workout here. I'll show you how to actually train hard because, sometimes it's actually very helpful to see someone actually pushing it hard. Remember what training hard means. Training hard means squeezing out every possible rep that you can do in good form on every set. So you don't want to rack the bar or quit the set until you know you've squeezed out every rep that you're capable of performing using proper form. That's what training hard means. And when you're following a low volume approach, when you're following the Polarity Fitness approach, you want to make sure you're doing that on every single set. Right? You don't actually want to fail. You don't need to fail, but you want to make sure that you have like 0 reps left in reserve, 1 rep in reserve maximum, right? It's about squeezing out every rep you can do in good form. Failing is unnecessary. Failing is just gonna, it's not safe and it's not gonna help you build more muscle necessarily. I fail on like isolation exercises like bicep curls or lateral raises because there's not a safety hazard and it's not gonna completely like trash me, right? But if I'm failing on like a barbell squat, that's not necessarily gonna be productive. That's a higher chance of injury and that's also gonna, dig a deep hole into my recovery. It's gonna really fuck me up. Right, so now I'm going to get into a couple sets of weighted pull-ups, show you guys how to train hard. So guys, that's what training hard is, right? That's intensity. That's intensity. See, I had no more reps left in the tank there. That last one, like that's what you want a lot of your final reps to look like.